Hey, Ben Sissel from SVRA coming to you from the day after the Amelia Island Vintage Grand Prix. And let me tell you, this was one of my favorite vintage racing events I have ever been to. And we as the SVRA staff did something we have never done before. We came in here Tuesday and we had to turn the Fernandina Beach Municipal Airport into a racetrack by Thursday for test day. All we could go by was some Google satellite images and some photos. We couldn't capture the scale until we got here. And once we got here and really saw how big this was and how much paddock space we were going to have, we kind of breathed a sigh of relief. And we had to create an infrastructure to be able to house the thousands of people that we were expecting for the Amelia Island Vintage Grand Prix. In building the track, Tony made an investment of 620 impact safety system barricades. They got here about 2 or 3 weeks ago and we started moving them up. And I will tell you this, I had the responsibility of filling these barricades up with water, the safety system. And you know who you want filling your barricades up with water if you're a driver? You want the videographer and photographer, the guy that's going to be on the other side of that wall to fill those up, because I really took my time and made sure we did it right. I have to mention the Fernandina Beach community as a whole. It seemed like as soon as we got here Thursday for test day, we loaded in the cars and the first thing we wanted to do was do the downtown parade to downtown Fernandina Beach, which is a really cozy, cool, like kind of small southern town. And we noticed right away that the community is going to embrace this. You know, this is a car culture community that loved this, because people were lined up and down the streets cheering for the cars in the parade, and as soon as the cars stopped and everybody was walking around, they were having a great time. So we knew that this was going to be a home run event for us. And it was, you know, it could have never happened without the city leadership. And I would need to mention straight off that Dale, the city manager, got what we were trying to do. I think got Tony's vision right away, and he helped out in any way we could. But we could never have done this event without Bobby, the Fernandina Beach Municipal Airport Operations Manager. So my pick for the race of the weekend was the Group 1, Group 4 race. What I loved about it is there was Theo Bean and his red Aston Martin battling 2 gold medallion Cobras in the Group 4 race, and they had it out. And then you go back for the battle of fourth between Tony Perella and his beautiful black Corvette and John Higgins in his Porsche 718 RSK. And then back in the Group 1 battle for first between Carl George and the 107 MGA and David Conrad and his number 49 MGA. And you know, you might say that I'm biased because these are like 2 of my favorite guys in vintage racing, but they put on a great show for the crowds. And that's what I love about vintage racing, is sometimes it's the race for first that's the best race, but sometimes it's the race for 7th or 17th.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, David Conrad and I had a fantastic race. Trying to hold him off, and then he got me, and I was trying to push him. And
a lot of fun. Carl and I always have a good time.
The track is really fun and very challenging. Y'all did a real good job of setting it up.
This was the second race of the season that the International GT joined us, and they put on a great show for the crowd. And I know in looking around the bleachers and watching it, everybody loves the vintage race cars. And it was also cool for the crowd to see some of the newer Porsches out there mixing it up. And it was cool because a lot of the guys in the International GT run some of the vintage cars with us and vice versa. And I know the International GT guys had a great time. Even in their modern Porsches, they said this track is set up perfectly for their car. But it wasn't just racing. We had the Saturday Haggerty Insurance Show and Shine, where people from the Amelia Island community could bring out some cars. And let me tell you, some people on this island really have some nice cars, and there was a great eclectic mix of cars at the Haggerty Show and Shine. So we appreciate everybody coming out for that, and I think they had fun, because if you enter the Show and Shine, you get to do parade laps around the track, and I heard from some of them that they thought the track was really fun. We had airplanes here. How cool is it to come to a vintage automobile race and then get to see vintage airplanes? And we kind of had even a vintage airplane race, or a dogfight as Tony Perello likes to call it. They kind of came screaming through here at low altitudes and really gave the fans a show. My favorite part of the weekend were the vintage motorcycles. This was a first to my knowledge with SVRA and vintage motorcycles, but they came out. We had a large group of them. They were so excited. It was really neat to get to meet them. I think that they mixed really well with our vintage car racer guys, and I think everybody, I know that our car guys were super impressed going out there, and we had some big names here.
Hello, I'm Jamie James. I'm here racing motorcycles with SVRA.
You were pretty much riding a wheelie down the whole back straight, is that true?
Well, yes, you know, I'm just having a good time playing around with the thing a little bit.
That was a first for me with vintage racing, seeing a guy pass somebody in a wheelie, probably riding a wheelie about 1/8 of a mile to 1/4 of a mile down the back straight. I have no idea the speeds he was going, but it was quite impressive.
My name is Bill Warner, and we're here at the Amelia River Golf Club. Racing has returned now to Fernandina after 40 years, and there's more enthusiasm. The crowds are out today. It's a wonderful event, and it has nothing more to do but to grow. I'm running the X Group 44 Paul Newman Triumph TR6, and it is a real vintage car. It's been raced continuously since 1971.
I have to mention Ross Bremer, a great guy in vintage racing, comes to many events with us. The last time he raced here was 48 years ago in the very car that he was racing here, and it's always kind of eaten at him that he didn't finish the race. He had some car problems, so he returned here 48 years later in the same car, and he finished the race. So we're so proud of Ross Bremer for doing that, celebrating his birthday, coming out here and finishing the race in his Ford Anglia. So that's it for the inaugural 2016 Amelia Island Vintage Grand Prix. One of my favorite events I've ever been to, one of the coolest events to shoot on video. I got to finally shoot a race with real hay bale corners and chicanes with some of the coolest cars in vintage racing. I can't wait for next year. It's going to be bigger and better than this year. So now we're off to the Auto Club Speedway with SVRA on the West Coast. Can't wait to see that.